Yes.
Okay,
Can you?
did I
There
make
we
it?
go.
Hey, there you go. How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing really well. Thanks so much for joining us, Barbara.
Oh, no, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. I'm always, and by the way, we had the opportunity to sit next to Barbara at the TWA convention a few months back. And what an amazing neighbor. And it still amazes me, Barbara, to this day. Not that it isn't warranted, but it always amazes me how many people remember Bruiser Brody. And just really, 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 he was a very memorable person in wrestling.
I know. Can you believe that? That it's coming up to next week to be, what is it, 30 or 88? I mean, it just seems like yesterday, and now it's going to be 37 years. And I cannot believe how people, like you just said, how people
Yeah.
still remember him and how they'll come up and they'll tell me stories. And I think the thing that really gets me is when they show me tattoos. I mean, they've got him on his body.
Wow.
It's like some of these tattoos are incredible too.
Sure,
But
sure.
but for someone to go and put an image on their body to in remembrance, it's and you know what? Because he always used to say all he wanted to do was to go out and give the fans the best night of their lives. He said they're coming to see me, they are paying good money to see me. I want them to go home happy. And I guess 37 years later, he did it. They still remember him, which is for his family, it's totally amazing.
That really is. Now, was there any part of him that enjoyed it when the fans went home scared? Because I'd imagine I would be scared.
Well, you know, the point was he was a heel, but
Yeah.
he always turned babyface. Because probably, you know why that probably was? Because he always fought Abby. And there's got to be, and with Abby being the way he is, of course, Frank Bruiser was always the, you know, the baby face.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they liked him. And I think that was, you know, he couldn't stay a heel for very long. And that's the strange part, you know, in it.
When you look at some of the opponents that he had, like you mentioned Abdullah the Butcher, but there weren't a whole lot of guys during that time that I think could kind of keep up with Bruiser in terms of uh, being intimidating. And I think that was another one that comes to mind is the Sheik, of course. Some of those battles, absolutely insane. What was it like to have Bruiser Brody come home to you at night?
Well, I wished he did come home every night because
Okay, okay,
I was the one, you know, he traveled
yeah,
constantly. So he was not home. I guess if you'd put it all together, it probably we only spent 3 months together because the rest of the time he was on the road. So he'd be
yeah,
lucky to get home a few days a month, and especially when he went to Japan, then he was gone for like sometimes 6 weeks at a time.
yeah.
And I stayed home, looked after the house and the business and the child. So I really didn't get to go to very many, you know, wrestling matches with him. A lot of the wives I've heard, they take him. But Frank believed when you work, you bring home the money. You don't spend the money out. That's why I'm sure you've heard the story about I always had to pack green beans and tuna because he figured out anybody can imagine him. He would sit in his hotel room and eat green beans and tuna because he was known to be very frugal. I don't know if you've heard that or
Okay,
not, but he was very frugal. And he said, "Why am I going out with the boys? I come home with no money." So
yeah.
he would work out in his room when there was no gym, and then he would eat his protein, his green beans and tuna. So he was famous. The boys always made fun of that. Why are you going to the room eating green beans and tuna? You should be coming and eating a steak, except in Japan. And of
Yeah.
course, the Ribera Steakhouse was what he kind of founded to have a big steak. That's all he wanted in Japan was to find a steak.
Yeah, and you know what? He spent so much time, like you said, traveling. There was almost like a mystique about him. At least there was for me in terms of being a fan, reading about him in the magazines and stuff like that. Because, like, they didn't have YouTube back then. It was pretty much
No,
just like tape trading. That's why I find it so amazing that he really has become such a beloved cult figure in wrestling.
I
It's
know. There's,
yeah.
like I said, this amazes me too, and it's funny. It's kind of nice. I'm doing the podcast today because this was our wedding anniversary, the 8th of July.
Oh wow.
So
Oh,
kind of,
that's so nice. Yeah.
kind of thinking, and then I'm doing a podcast for people remembering him. So it's kind of nice. Thank you. Just the way it worked out.
How has the wrestling community kind of embraced you since his death? In particular, I feel like probably even more since the Dark Side of the Ring episode.
You see, when all this went down, I wasn't even close to the wrestling at all. I
Hmm.
kind of lost my wrestling family. I mean, Stan Hansen has always stayed in touch with me. There was Stan, of course, Herb Simmons, Larry Matisak, rest in peace, Buck Robley. So there was only just a few people that stayed in touch. I stayed away from everything. And then I think it was, oh, it was like 2007, and Larry Matisak, there was a gentleman had already written a book about Frank, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to write a book, but after I heard about the other book, it was like Larry Matisak approached me and said, will you write a book? I said, I'm no author. I cannot write a book. He said,
Right.
don't worry. He said, all you'd have to do is write down the truth, write down your story, just write the truth. I will take, I will take care of the wrestling side. You just take care of the personal side. And that's exactly, what we did. So I wrote the book. And after that, of course, he started getting awards and then I found my wrestling family, and it was so nice to be around people and to meet people and to hear the stories. And I was just very grateful to find the family that I had lost so long ago who embraced me. So it was kind of cool. Like, what, next week I'll be in Waterloo at the Hall of Fame up there in Waterloo, which will be great. Get to see everybody again. And then, of course, there's the gathering in Charlotte. I'll be there too, which is great. I enjoy seeing the people up there. Marty does a wonderful show, and the Waterloo people. And then, of course, we've got Vegas, the Cauliflower Alley Club, which is a great, great organization, and we'll be there in the middle of August. So I've got about 3 trips coming up, and then it's quiet again. They all come together, but it's kind of nice to see everybody and keep in touch and everything.
Yeah, that is a really nice thing, Barbara. Now, in light of how we lost Bruiser, and it's been well documented, and
Yes.
people. I mean, it must have been such a tough thing for you to have him not even nearby home when this happened. I can't even imagine how difficult that was, and to still have so much unresolved.
And all, like I said, I never really talked about or anything. I wrote the book. The book was a great,
Yeah,
just writing everything down and everything. And then when Evan and Jason approached me to be the pilot episode on Dark Side of the Ring in Vice, and I met them and I really liked them, and I thought, well, and they kept me part of everything, so I knew pretty much what was going on and what they were doing
yeah,
and everything. And as I said, I'm so thrilled. We went to Austin. My son is in Austin, so we filmed it in Austin. I went there, and just the way, and they were the first people that ever got my son to actually talk anywhere, because they were about his age, that my son's age was. So, and the thing I think that really got me on the dark side of the ring is when they asked Jeff, his son, what do you remember about your dad? Well, his comment was to the effect is, well, everybody has stories about my dad except me. That kind of got me because he was only 7,
yeah, yeah,
when everything happened. He was only 7, so he really doesn't remember much about his dad.
yeah. Now that's really a sad thing. Was there any reluctance on your part when Dark Side of the Ring approached you? I mean, by all accounts, your husband really wasn't material like they would usually have for Dark Side of the Ring.
No, it's like I said, the way they approached me and they said it's the pilot, and like I said,
Yeah,
they still keep in contact with me. They were such nice people, and I'm so thrilled that what is it now, 5 years later or something,
yeah.
that that the pilot episode created Dark Side of the Ring, that the Vice network picked it up. So I was thrilled that that happened to be the pilot episode, and they did it really good. Of course, it's wrestling, and we know there's a little bit of embellishment that goes on
Sure,
when
sure.
people talk, as you know too. It's wrestling.
No, it is wrestling, but yeah, no, that's really interesting stuff there. Kathy, did you have something for Barbara? You mentioned.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Good to talk to you again. I really enjoyed meeting you up there. Thank you for being so kind to me.
You know what? When it comes to a person as sweet as you are,
Oh,
it's very easy. And
I
then
know.
She's nice. Yeah,
but then I
she's
felt
nice to
bad. You had
everybody
to
but
sit
me.
next to Brady. You know.
She's nice to everybody but me. Believe it or not.
Oh, I don't believe
No,
that.
I'm not.
No, she's not.
I
She's
don't
not nice
believe
to
that.
everybody.
But Barbara, I
No.
do have to agree with you about Evan and them from Dark Side. When I did the Sherry episode, they were very nice, very kind, um, very nice people, and again, they still keep in touch with me.
I know. I mean, they're just wonderful people. And I was so happy that Evan got married. I was
He
thrilled for
did?
him
Oh,
too.
that's great.
Yes, he got married. I wished him the best. Yeah, it was on, it was like, way to go, Evan. So, yep. So, congratulations to Evan.
Yes.
Barbara, sorry to change the subject on you. One of the listeners, they want to know if you know offhand who Bruiser's favorite opponent was.
What
Because
was
that's
that,
something
Chris?
we can't ask him. They want to know if you know who Bruiser's favorite opponent was. Because that's something we can't ask him today, unfortunately.
Well, he had a couple.
Okay.
Abby, Abby, of course.
Oh
And
boy.
he loved
Yeah.
working with Terry Gordy, the Berserker,
The
and
Berserker. Wow.
so he had a few people, and I think the Japanese people, of course, he had some great opponents over in Japan. And one of the few matches that I saw was in St. Louis when he went. The Japanese came over to film, and he went 1 hour with Ric Flair, because Rick,
Wow.
and nobody would have believed, they didn't believe that this person that goes in the ring and is an absolutely crazy man could do 1 hour of wrestling with Ric Flair. In fact, every time I see Rick, which I saw him up there in Philly, he
Yeah.
always talks about that. He always said that was one of his favorite opponents too. So I have to put Ric Flair right up there as well.
That's pretty cool. Another name that comes to mind, and this is one that I keep reading about, the partnership, and I'd assume the friendship with Stan Hansen, especially overseas in Japan there. I mean, what was that relationship like between those two?
Well, they both met at the what is it? The university up there in where is it, in Texas?
Okay.
And they were roommates. They played football together, and they were roommates. So that friendship goes back to when they were in college together. So that's how it just transpired. And there's most of the wrestlers. Oh gosh, it just slipped my mind. The university up there in Amarillo, because
Okay.
everybody, the Funks were there.
Yeah.
So many came out of I think University of Texas, or it wasn't that the right name, but it's the one up there in Amarillo that all the wrestling people came out of.
Was that Christian Abilene by any chance?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
No.
I know that was a
Oh,
big one. Okay.
whatever. You get
Yeah.
old, and your mind,
Wow.
you get blank every
My
so
mind is more.
often.
I totally understand. No, but it's such a fascinating thing, and I think Barbara, I do think because so much was mysterious about Bruiser Brody, opportunities like this to get to talk to his wife, they're just very unique, very cool, and I think that's part of the reason why so many people have embraced the opportunity to come out and, for example, meet you at a convention or something like that. Um, as you mentioned, the fans have always been really respectful and loving.
Oh, they have. And it's West Texas State. I remember it just
That's it. Okay.
West Texas State. And they were roommates. Frank was already there and Stan walked in the room, and
Wow.
that was that was their beginning of their friendship. And like I said, Stan, in fact, I've got a phone. Stan called me yesterday. So like I
Oh
said, it's
wow.
been, forever, because when you think about it, it's been such a long time. No, I really appreciate when the fans come up and talk to me and that, because and especially the ones, there's one in the Gathering in Charlotte. I've been going there
Hmm.
for about 5 years or something, and I had this one little gentleman. He was only young at the time. He was wearing a Bruiser Brody shirt. Well, I have seen him every year for 5 years, and now he's taller than me. And to think that people, these are people, I mean, this is just a child. Well, he was a child. He's now just graduated. I love it. He sent me his graduation pictures, and I'll be seeing him too in the end of this month. So, but to have people like that, that are so young, that have found Frank through YouTube, through
Yeah.
all these TV shows and everything, and have picked up on what he did, and that he's still viable, because you have to remember, back then there was nothing. We didn't have social media back in
Yeah.
those days in the 70s. And for these people, especially all these people that were not born when he left us, is what is so totally amazing. Because and they just found him. And you have to remember, like, this was old school wrestling. This is not like some of the modern wrestling that
Yeah.
they have now. And there's nothing wrong, I'm not putting it down, there's nothing wrong with the wrestling. I went to an AEW. They had one here, and JR had got me ringside tickets to go to it. I mean, it was absolutely fascinating. But it was the movements. They are so incredible, but there's no story. I kind of thought I was like a Circus du Soleil. It was so incredible, the acrobatics that they do.
Right.
So it was a whole different thing. So now I understand why sometimes people will go back to the old tapes, and there was a story. It was like soap opera for adults, the wrestling, because they told a story, from A to B to C. There was a story
Yeah.
involved in it, which which is what Herb Simmons and his organization, they still do some of the old school wrestling.
Sure. Sure. It's like it's evolved to become this whole different animal from what it was even 20 years ago, but really like 30, 40 years ago, it's a totally different thing. Barbara, if if Bruiser were with us today, and like God, I wish he was. I really do. I'd
Me
love
too.
to be having this interview with him. It would be amazing. But what do you think he would say to the fans today? What do you think he would have to say?
Well, I think it'd still be the same, except he would be a little quieter, maybe. But
Okay.
before everything happened, we had bought a ring from Joe Blanchard in San
Oh,
Antonio,
okay.
and we had property out in the country. And what he was going to do, he was working with a friend of his, going to the university in San Antonio, and what they were going to do was they were going to get all because you have to go through a lot of stuff to be able to do things at the university.
Hmm.
And they loved it, because this was just when the DARE program, remember the DARE program that came out way back then. And they were had a skit they were going to do, was to going to put at the wrestling ring up, here's Frank, the way that he is. He was going to get in that ring, and they were going to do a skit about the dangers of drugs and alcohol, because this is the age group where you're in that danger period. If you can go this way or you can go that way. And you think they wouldn't listen to Frank? we, as the authority, as a parent, half the time our kids don't listen to us, but you put someone like Frank there, they actually might have listened. And we also he'd started a LLC corporation called BAM, Brody Athletic Management. And
Okay.
he had a little piece of land that kind of had a little stream running through it and an old type mobile home on it. And he was going to take some of the disadvantaged kids out in the school holiday and have a little boy camp.
Oh
You know,
wow.
because sometimes with these kids today, all it takes is someone to show them love, I guess you'd say, but show them that they're a person that can change their life. And you have someone like Frank that is a friend. You think that he could have changed a few of these kids' lives. So it's such a shame it never happened because, the things that happened. But he had all these plans that he was thinking about doing was to go because he always liked kids. If you notice, sometimes you'll see quite a few photographs of him with kids. And
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm at these events, someone will come up to me and they'll say they remember they were just a kid and they remember seeing Frank coming through the airport looking like a monster and they were
Yeah.
scared, and they'd hide behind daddy's leg. And if Frank saw
Right.
that, he would get down and he would talk to them,
Oh
you know,
wow.
in the
Oh,
soft
that's cool.
voice. And what he would say, they would come and say that to them it was kind of like a lesson because you realize you can't judge a book by its cover. People are
Ah.
always will judge people by how they look or color, anything, but it's
Yeah.
not that. It's who somebody is inside and how they relate to you. It doesn't matter about the other one, anything else. It's how you relate to people.
No, that's such a nice story, Barbara. That's really that's it shows you the other side of him that you didn't get to see on TV
No, because
back then. Yeah.
because he did it as a business, and
Yeah.
he never became. Bruiser Brody was his business. Frank Goodish was who he was, and he never lost sight between the difference between Frank Goodish and Bruiser Brody. When he came home, he was Frank Goodish, and he would bring tapes home, and he would
Yeah.
study those tapes, especially in Japan, because Japan. You worked in Japan and I'd hear them, and it was like somebody that studies their work. They want to get better at their work, and that's what he would do. He'd watch the tapes, and I would hear him talk in the lounge room, saying, "I could have done that better. Oh, that would have been
Right.
better." So
Yeah.
yeah, he always studied, and it was a business. So that was his business. That was not Bruiser Brody was a business. It was not Frank Goodish. So I think sometimes when people are in entertainment, they lose sight of who they really are, and they will become the figure they create.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Barbara, you've been so generous with your time here tonight.
You are
Now,
welcome.
of course, it's been amazing. Do you have any conventions or shows, anything coming up where people that maybe want to come meet you,
Yeah,
where they can
yeah,
rub elbows?
like I said, Waterloo. Waterloo is a great event.
Yeah.
That's coming up, and that's what is it? Hang on, I've got a list of because I can never can remember the date. Yeah, Waterloo. It's the George Treyas Luthers Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's the 17th to the
Yes.
19th of July in Waterloo. Then we have the Gathering, which is in Charlotte. Great event too, and that's from the 30th of this month to the 3rd of August. And then, of course, the big one, Vegas. Cauliflower Alley Club, what a great organization. And that's August the 18th to the
Yeah.
20th. And they help. Wrestlers do not have any pension or any medical or anything like that. And the
Yeah.
Cauliflower Alley Club is if they get into trouble, they can get help from the benevolent fund. That's why it's a great organization, you know, to give and to join. It's not that expensive, and you get four magazines a month. So they're on the website Cauliflower Alley Club. Great organization, and like I said, you actually get a magazine 4 times a month, and it
Mm,
goes to benefit the wrestlers who sometimes are having medical problems, or either having they can't find the money for their rent, or somebody has passed and they need money and that. So yeah, that is CAC, Cauliflower Alley Club, great organization.
fantastic cause, Barbara. Thank you so much for the time. Actually, before we let you go, could I ask you one more small favor?
Sure.
Could I get you to record what we call a bumper to play on the beginning of the show?
Sure. What?
Just kind of tell people who you are and remind them that they're listening to In the Room, if you could.
Hang on. In the in
In
the
the
room.
Room?
In
Yes.
the room. in
Yes.
in the room
In the Room,
with
like
Brady
this.
Hicks, right?
In the Room, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
with Brady Hicks. Yeah. Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great. And then we'll have you on your way. I promised you 15 to 20 minutes, and
I don't. That's
um,
good.
it flew by, believe me. Yeah, okay, I'll give you a countdown then, Barbara. And after that, we'll be good to go. All right, 3, 2.
I am Barbara Goodish, and my late husband was Bruiser Brody, and I am in the room with Brady Hicks, which you should always listen to. And I'm so happy to say hi to the fans, and please message me on Facebook, and I'd love to talk to you, and I'd love to see you. Don't remember, in the room with Brady Hicks. Watch it.
I love it.
Was
Thank
that
you so
okay?
much for the. It
I
was
always get.
amazing, Barbara. Thank you. I
That
need
was
you to call my
fantastic. That's
parents
better
and
than what
tell them.
Brady can do, Barbara. That's absolutely better than what Brady could do.
What was
I
that?
need. He said it was better than me, which
Oh,
nobody would argue. Nobody would argue. I need
It,
you to call my parents and relay that message,
okay.
actually. No.
Hey,
such a pleasure, Miss Goodish.
yeah,
Such a
one
pleasure.
question. How is Joel Goodhart?
He's
You
doing
know, I
good,
haven't.
Barbara.
Hmm?
Good.
He's
Kathy's the
doing
one to
good. I
answer.
saw him a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, because I really appreciated him asking me up there for the show and everything. And I think the saddest thing was getting to see Sabu one last time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was kind of, you know, but yeah, I was wondering how he was, and that's good. So please say hi to him from me, and I'm glad to get to talk to you, Kathy, too.
Yeah. Keep in touch, okay, Barbara?
Keep in touch, and hope to see you somewhere,
I'll we'll
somehow.
figure it out.
Gotcha.
It's great to
Have
see you
you?
again.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 No, thank you, Barbara. It was really a pleasure.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right. There you have it. Barbara Goodish, the late, great wife of Bruiser Brody, somebody who I really emulated when I did the neighborhood wrestling. Actually, Kathy, I used to do a really nasty lariat, because I was